You've got a fan blowing right on your plants, leaves dancing all day. So why is your tent still a swamp? Because a fan moving the air around and air actually leaving the tent are two different things. And almost nobody's doing the second one. Tonight we're talking about the thing every single grower thinks they've already handled: airflow. You set up a fan, you saw the leaves move, you crossed it off the list. I did the same thing when I started. Here's the trap. Airflow is the one thing in your tent you can actually see working. The leaves are fluttering, the fan's humming. So when the box gets muggy, or mold shows up, or the bottom of the plant starts sulking, airflow is the last thing you suspect. It's quietly behind half the problems people bring me. And they're usually already fixed it 3 times by adding more fans. This one's for the home grower. Tent, closet, spare room, mostly soil, fighting a swampy box, early mildew, or leaves doing something weird, who keeps throwing fans at it and can't figure out why the air still feels wrong. By the end of tonight, you'll know exactly what your air is and is not doing, and what to check before you buy one more fan. And a quick callback. Remember last week, we started a germination test with root nerds. The results are in. Last week on the show, we kicked off that little experiment with root nerds. We loaded the germination chambers. We started with the cucumber, the beans, radish, and we started the clock. Right there they were when we put them in. It was a simple bet, right? Keep 3 things steady: temperature, moisture, oxygen, and you should get germination you can count on. So we let it run 72 hours, no peaking, and here's the results. 100% germination. Every single pod. Cucumber, radishes came out swinging, strong tails fast. Even the beans, the tough shell, all cracked open. We did bump those up to 12 milliliters of water. That was a great tip. That's the real takeaway. Consistency, not luck. Hold the conditions, and the seed does the rest. Big thanks to Root Nerds for sponsoring that test. All right, if you want to dial in your own seeds, their code MyRemy10 gets you 10% off at rootnerds.com. Cool. Yeah, that was fun. Shout out to those guys at Root Nerds. Mark, they really know their stuff. I was impressed. That was easy peasy. All right, quick room check. Let me see who's in here tonight. Drop where you're growing from. What's up, everybody? Whole bunch of people. Mom, Gigi Boys, Katie Fowler, Root Nerds, what's happening? HDE, what's happening, brother? Wakefield, Uncle John, everybody. Thank you so much. Here's the moment that kicks it off. You walk into your tent, and it just feels wrong. Warm, close, swampy, even though that fan has been running nonstop. The leaves are moving, so the air should be fine, right? Then you start noticing stuff. The lower leaves are drooping, kind of damp when you touch them, a little dusting of white powder on a shaded leaf, condensation where there shouldn't be any. And you're standing there going, have airflow, can hear it, I can watch the leaves dance. So why is it muggy in here? And why am I getting mold? Here's the part that trips everybody up. The fact that you can see the air moving is exactly why you can't see what's actually wrong. A fan blowing inside a closed tent doesn't lower humidity. It just moves the same wet air around. Picture stirring a pot of soup. The soup moves, but nothing leaves the pot. The circulation matters. It breaks up the dead spots, strengthens stems, keeps moisture from sitting on leaves, but in a closed tent, that fan is recycling humid air, not removing it. To actually drop humidity, you need air exchange. Humid air leaving, and drier, fresh air coming in. That's an exhaust fan pulling air out. plus an intake path, letting fresh air in. And your plants are working against you the whole time. Every leaf is breathing out water vapor all day, transpiration. So while the fan stirs, the plants keep loading the air with moisture. In a sealed tent, it stacks up fast. And that's your condensation, powdery mildew, early mold. With the exhaust running, look at the tent walls. Gently sucking inward means real exchange. The tent walls are just sitting, puffed out or neutral. That means you've got circulation, but not enough exchange. Aim for roughly 50 to 60% humidity in veg, 40 to 50 in flower, once buds get dense. So here's the shift I want you to make. Stop grading your airflow by how much the leaves move. Start grading it by whether the air is actually leaving. Those are two totally different scoreboards, all right? And the guy who adds a second clip fan, then a third, feels like he's doing something. More wind, more motion, gotta be better. And he's just spinning the same swamp faster. I've had people in the shop swear up and down they've got tons of airflow, and they do, inside a sealed box with no way out. So tonight, do the one thing that settles it. Zip it up, turn the exhaust on, watch the walls. If they don't pull in, your tent isn't breathing, it's holding its breath. That's the whole fix list, top to bottom. Give the wet air a door before you give it another fan. Go check out your tent walls right now while your fan's running, sucking in or just hanging there. Drop an in or out in the chat. I guarantee that one look tells half of you something you didn't know 30 seconds ago. Okay, so the box is muggy. Here's what almost everybody does next. You grab a fan and you point it right at the canopy, full blast, and really gets those leaves moving. Because if a little airflow is good, then a lot has got to be better. And a few days later, the leaves closest to that fan are curling downward, clawing under, looking rough. So now you go, oh no, I overwatered, or I burned them on nutrients. And you start messing with your feed and your watering. Meanwhile, the humidity never moved an inch. The fix that feels like more airflow, blasting that fan harder at your plants, can be the exact thing burning your leaves and fooling you into solving a problem you didn't even have. Let me show you what's really going on here. Windburn happens when a fan hits the plant too hard for too long. The leaves in that airflow path start to curl and claw downward, sometimes looking dry or beat up on the edges. The key tell is location. With windburn, the damage is only on the leaves, getting hit directly. Leaves tucked behind branches or out of the fan's path look totally fine. That's how you separate it from the usual suspects. Overwatering hits the whole plant more evenly. Everything droops. The pot stays heavy. Nutrient toxicity shows up across the plant. Dark green leaves, burnt tips, clawing that isn't limited to one fan-facing side. But if it's only the leaves in the direct blast clawing, while the sheltered ones look happy, that's wind. To fix it, don't kill your airflow. Just stop blasting the canopy. Aim fans at a wall, across the room, or just above the plants, so the movement is indirect, and use oscillating fans so no one section gets hammered all day. You want leaves gently dancing, not getting pushed around. And remember, that fan never removed any humidity anyway. Circulation prevents stale pockets. Exhaust removes moisture. Big difference. Here's why this one's so nasty. The wrong turn doesn't just waste time, it actively wrecks your grow. You see the clawing, you decide it's overwatering. So you back off the water. Now you've got a genuinely thirsty plant on top of the windburn. Or you call it a new issue and start tweaking your feed. And now you can't tell what's causing what. 2, 3 problems stack up, all off one fan that was too close. Walk around the plant. If the only sad leaves are the ones eating wind and the sheltered ones look fine, you can breathe, okay? It's not your water, it's not your feed, and honestly, that's good news, because a fan problem is the easiest thing in this entire tent to fix. You don't even kill the airflow, you just stop pointing it like a weapon. Don't go digging through the nutrient shelf to solve a wind problem. Okay, let's put all this together, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. When the air in your tent feels off, almost everybody's instinct is to go buy another fan, but more fans is usually answering the wrong question. There are really 2 completely separate airflow jobs happening in your tent, and most growers are only ever doing one of them and wondering why it's not enough. Get these 2 straight in the right order, and the muggy box mostly fixes itself without you spending another dime. Before you buy another fan, split the problem into 2 jobs, exchange and reach, and do them in that order, because circulation fans can move bad air around without ever fixing it. Job 1 is exchange. Is old air actively leaving and fresh air getting in? Confirm it 3 ways. No money required. The wall bow test. Zip the tent, run the exhaust. The wall should pull in slightly. The zipper test. Crack the zipper and feel for air pulling inward through the gap. Hold smoke near the seams and ports. It should get drawn toward the openings, okay? Not pushed out everywhere. Then check your intake. Make sure nothing's choking. A crushed duct, a closed flap, a bin shoved up in front of a vent. Fresh air needs a clean way in before any fan inside the tent can really help. Only once exchange is working do you solve reach. Circulation fans breaking up the dead zones in the corner, on the floor, and under the canopy aim to disperse, not blast. One trap to dodge: a dehumidifier inside a small tent pulls moisture but pumps heat, so it can make the box feel worse. Better move is to run it outside in the room the tent pulls from, so your intake brings in drier air. Prove the exchange, open the intake, then use circulation for reach. Don't buy more wind until the air has somewhere to go. If you take one thing home from tonight, take the order, because the order is what saves you money. Almost everybody spends on 2 jobs. More circulation fans when the actual problem is job 1. And no stack of clip fans ever empties a sealed box. So spend on exchange first, a properly sized inline exhaust, and an honest intake. That's the dollar that actually moves your humidity number. Then you think about reach, okay? And that's where the cheap gear earns its keep. A clip fan up high to keep the canopy moving, to spread it around, and the one almost everybody forgets, the little fan down low aimed under the canopy, where the still wet air pods and bud rot get started. That bottom of the tent dead zone is exactly where I watch good grows lose weight at the finish line. Exchange buys you the whole room. Reach protects the corners of it. Get those 2 in the right order, and you can stop throwing money at the wind. So here's the one thing I want stuck in your head tonight. Airflow isn't a fan. Airflow is 2 jobs: moving the wet air out of the box and reaching the still spots inside the box. And a fan pointed at your plants doesn't really do either one. Your fan stirs the room. Your exhaust empties it. You need both. And you need them in that order. That muggy tent isn't a vibe. It's the exact thing bud rot and powdery mildew are waiting for. Movement was never proof. A leaf dancing in the wind just means a leaf is dancing. The wind is the wet air leaving and the dead spots getting touched. That's the air actually working for you instead of just making noise. Go look at your tent walls and tell me, are they sucking in or just sitting there? Drop it in the comments. If you've got an air or humidity situation that's been driving you nuts, something that doesn't add up, drop it below. We pull real grow problems right out of these comments and break them down on future shows. And one more, if you've got a photo that shows tonight's lesson, a swampy tent, condensation on the walls, leaves clawing in front of the fan, send it in. We might feature it to drive the lesson home. No promises, but we look at every single one. This is the whole reason we built Green Zone the way we did. Education first, no pressure, real answers. We'd rather teach you to read your own tent than sell you a fan you don't need. And MyRemy, sitting right there on the website, totally free, asking about your own tent and your own gear. It'll give you a straight baseline to start from instead of a forum argument. If you're local, anywhere in New England, come see us in Worcester. Bring photos of your setup. We'll talk through your air with you face to face. Real growers, real talk, no fluff. Good night, everyone.